Andor Season 2 has officially come to an end.
No! 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 No!
But before we get all bummed out because Andor is over and we'll never watch another season of Andor, we gotta talk about this 12th episode. Was this the perfect end to one of the greatest Star Wars projects of all time? And does it make Rogue One, an already incredible Star Wars film, an even better one? From one last escape from Coruscant, to giving us an end to every single one of these characters, to of course the enormous reveal of Bix having Cassian's child on Mina Rao. This 12th episode is the end of the Andor series. And much like Andor itself, this finale was
a surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
Imagine somebody telling you all those years ago when Andor was first announced that it would go down as one of the greatest Star Wars projects of all time. I don't think anybody was expecting that. This finale does have a lot going on, so without further ado, let's break it down. Episode 12 is titled Jedha, Kyber, Urso. These three ingredients are the most important moving into Rogue One. Not only is Jedha the planet where Saw Gerrera and his rebels are hiding out, but the Kyber crystals to power the Death Star that the Empire is looking for is on Jedha. And the Urso in question here is not Jyn Erso, but her father, Galen, the man who put the flaw in the Death Star so that the rebels had a fighting chance against the Galactic Empire. And this episode opens right where episode 11 left off, in the super secret safe room on Coruscant, shortly after Cassian and Melshi made it to this room to help rescue Kleya from Coruscant, with the ISB on their way up the elevator as they speak. As Kleya was telling Cassian all about the Gorman massacre and Scarif and Galen Erso and how this is all a big plan for some sort of super weapon, they have no idea that the Empire is on its way. And this episode opens with Kleya very concerned about going to Yavin, calling it a bitter end and saying she'll feel like a prisoner there. To which Cassian assures her that she'll be considered a hero, especially with this information that she is giving them. However, as we know, that is not going to be the case, but we'll get to that. As Cassian says, "We're not leaving you here," we cut to Partagaz. He's at the ISB headquarters where the communications with his troopers have been lost, and that is thanks to K2SO, the backup for Cassian and Melshi. And just as Cassian is convinced Kleya to come to Yavin, and they're about to leave the super secret safe room, the ISB has arrived, and Melshi walks into the hallway and gets caught. Now, the Empire needs Kleya alive. They need to question her and find out what's really going on with this rebellion, so they can't shoot. But there really is no other exit here, and Cassian and the others are pinned down, and their only hope is K2SO.
Help me.
K2SO.
You're my only hope.
Now, I know we only get a couple episodes of K2SO, but he is just the best. Him taking out these Imperial troopers on his way in is just awesome. And it does make you want to just rewatch Rogue One so you can get more K2. But back upstairs, these troopers are going to try to stun Kleya and the others by throwing this stunner grenade into the room. Now, I guess it did its job, but it almost killed Kleya in the process, while also throwing Cassian against the wall. And just as it seems, with Kleya almost dead on the floor and Cassian blinded, that all is lost, K2SO comes to save the day. He even uses Supervisor Hurt as a human shield. And as he finally makes it to the super secret safe room, he says,
"Cassian, I've cleared a path."
We then see Partagaz, who has been running this entire operation, or at least failing to run this entire operation this whole time. And you can tell just by the look on his face that he knows he's done. The failure of allowing Kleya to escape with the information that she knows about Galen Erso, about all that stuff. I've seen some people questioning why Partagaz does what he does later in the episode, which we'll get to, but it's because of this. He failed, and he knows that there is no coming back from this. And as Cassian and the others leave the safe room, he takes one last look at the place he used to call home. Him and Bix used to live there, back in episodes 4 through 6 of this second season. And this is really the last time he's ever going to be on Coruscant, as well. We know where Cassian's story ends. But as they hop in the U-Wing and fly away, we get to see the Imperial Police. These ships we've seen in Star Wars Rebels and in the Jedi games. But sadly, although this seems like a successful mission, the Rebel Alliance on Yavin 4 is not very happy about this. Not only did they not okay this mission, but they're not going to be too pleased with the information that Cassian returns with, and they don't even know if they can believe it. But before they even return to Yavin, we get a conversation with Saw Gerrera. I'll be completely honest, I thought there was going to be a lot more Saw in these last 3 episodes, actually these last 6 episodes, maybe getting to see how he lost his legs because he has 2 metal legs in Rogue One. But this scene in particular does sort of clarify why we didn't get more Saw. He's lost his mind, like absolutely gone bonkers. And episode 5 of this second season does explain why. The Rhydonium, I mean, he's obsessed with it. He's pretty much addicted. And as many fans have theorized now, I think the oxygen mask that he has is not oxygen, it's rhydonium. Now, rhydonium is used to fuel ships, so any long exposure to it will make you go crazy. And that's what we're seeing with Saw. It also affects the sound of his voice. That's why he sounds the way that he sounds. But during this conversation between the holographic Saw Gerrera and Mon Mothma, who is now supporting the short hair that we see from Rogue One, we see Mon get very upset at Saw, telling him that they know that he's on Jedha, that he's picking off Imperial transports as they're trying to transport the Kyber to power the Death Star. But they don't know that yet. But Saw's actions are drawing way too much attention to the rebellion, attention they really don't need right now. But Saw, who has lost his mind, is like, you have no idea where I am. You have no idea what I'm doing. And he hangs up the hologram. Now this does explain why Saw is the way that he is in Rogue One. The real reason he doesn't want to work with the rebellion when they show up with Jyn Erso and Cassian. Also in on this meeting is General Draven and Bail Organa. Now, not the Jimmy Smits Bail Organa that you're used to seeing. This is Bail Organa recast and played by Benjamin Bratt. Now, I will say Benjamin Bratt does a great job at portraying the character. It's still a little strange that we see Bail Organa right here in Andor Season 2 in this final episode looking like this, and just a few hours or days later, he looks completely different. I get it, you couldn't get Jimmy Smits, a scheduling conflict, whatever. It's just a little weird. But this meeting is cut short as Cassian is coming back home. And well, he's coming in unauthorized by the rebellion. They're trying to keep a very secure base here on Yavin, and Captain Cassian Andor seems to keep on breaking the rules. And let's just say Bail Organa is not very happy about it. Just outside this room, we get reintroduced to another familiar face from Rogue One, Admiral Raddus. Raddus is a Mon Calamari species who is at the Battle of Scarif and is the one who receives the Death Star plans from Cassian on the surface below. Cassian's U-Wing is flying in, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with him. And Raddus even mentions yet another familiar name from Rogue One, as he says, you're lucky that Merrick's away, because he'd shoot him down himself, referring to General Merrick from Rogue One. He was also known as Blue Leader in that movie too. Even though we don't get to see Merrick in this episode, and he of course shows up in Rogue One, it's still cool to get the mention. And as the U-Wing comes down into the atmosphere, 2 X-Wings come alongside it, guiding them in for a happy landing.
Another happy landing.
When they land, they take Clea out, and Cassian pleads to Draven that he has very important news. And as Cassian enters this room, we get even more familiar faces. Senator Palmo, who was seen in episode 6 earlier this season, and is in Rogue One, is also seated at the table, and Cassian begins to tell them the news. However, the name Luthen Rael is not one that these people want to hear. They look at him the same way they look at Saw Gerrera, and let's just say that's not good. As I just talked about, they think that Saw Gerrera's lost his mind, and well, maybe Luthen had too, but he definitely had his inside informants. And as we know, Lonnie gave him all this information that is vital to the rebellion. He tells them how all of this is connected to this super weapon, the Gorman destruction, the mining of Kyber on Jedha, this Imperial engineer named Galen Erso. They were all just conveniently wrapped under this energy program that Palpatine was so keen on. And as the room is not believing Cassian, he tells them that Luthen died for this. But as Bail Organa reminds him, the problem here is Luthen. Although Cassian and Luthen share a long history, and even Mon Mothma and Luthen share a long history, it doesn't mean that what he's saying is the truth. And Senator Palmo chimes in and says he's been a thorn in our side for so long now. And Cassian's not having any of that. Does she understand that Luthen is the one that created this whole damn thing? The only reason they're all sitting here safe and sound on Yavin is because of Luthen. What we see in Rogue One, none of that would be anything without Luthen. And we didn't even know who Luthen was until Andor. It's more proof that a character like Luthen, like Ahsoka Tano, can exist outside of the movies and still play a huge role in the story. Because Ahsoka Tano is not in any of the prequels or the originals, and yet her character is so important to the story of Anakin. The same way that Luthen is not in any of the movies, but his story is so important to Cassian and to the rebellions as a whole. As Cassian tries to explain this to the room, he says, I knew Luthen. I knew the good and the bad. I had the front row seat to it. And 2 years ago, I chose to be here on Yavin. But none of that takes away from what he did. So he doesn't know if what Luthen told him is true or not. But it's insulting to hear him get run down by people who have given a fraction of what he sacrificed for this rebellion. As Luthen said in season 1, he's making a sunrise that he will never see. He is giving everything to the rebellion. And that's what he did. Episode 10 ends with Luthen's death, as he truly did give everything to start this rebellion, but also he gave everything for this information. This super weapon that the Empire is building, this is it. It's do or die now. But Bail Organa calms the room and says, look, you haven't talked to this guy in over a year. A year's a long time. And the latest we heard is that the ISB was on to Luthen, that they were going to find him and catch him. It's a little hard to believe that Luthen wasn't the one being played here, and this information is wrong. And Bail says we will continue this discussion tomorrow. As of now, Captain Andor, you are forbidden from accessing your ship and confined to your quarters. But on his way back to his house, he walks with General Draven to go to the infirmary to check on Clea. And as the two are walking, Draven informs him that his contact with Saw Gerrera, Tivik, has sent 3 urgent messages from Kafrene over the past 10 hours. Tivik is the character with the hurt arm at the beginning of Rogue One, the character that Cassian goes to meet in the alleyway on the Ring of Kafrene. And the reason that Tivik is complaining about Cassian being late at the beginning of Rogue One is because he was grounded on Yavin 4. So all the pieces are now being put together. And little by little, this Andor Season 2 is morphing into the beginning of Rogue One. But Cassian goes to see Clea and says, well, I guess this isn't the nice hero's welcome that I promised, but it's a lot for them to take in. We then cut to Vel, Mon Mothma's cousin, who's kind of taken a back seat in this second season, as Mon Mothma has come to her to tell her that Luthen has died, and that Cassian and Clea have brought back some curious information. And Mon wants Vel to go hear that information from Cassian himself, find out if it's real. We then cut to Vel and Cassian having a drink to Luthen. They don't have time to toast for them all, so they might as well now. And it's like taking a trip down memory lane as they toast to Gorn, Nemik, Terramin, Cinta, the Gormans, Ferrix, Marva, and the Donnies. These two have been through it all. Since Cassian's first big mission with the rebellion with Luthen on Aldhani, these two are the only ones who remain. And they've been through quite a bit over the last 5 years. But Vel comes straight out and asks, do you think the story from Luthen is real? Cassian says, well, he died for it. There's no way to twist it. None of this here on Yavin exists without Luthen. Vel knows better than anybody. Although she didn't really like him, she still understands. And Cassian says Clea wouldn't lie about it either. As the two drink away, we cut to Coruscant, where Partagaz is listening to Nemik's manifesto. It's crazy how spot on this kid was. Still one of the most heartbreaking losses of the entire Andor series is Nemik, but Partagaz is interrupted by Legret, as Legret regrets to inform him that they are waiting for him. All the blame for losing Clea will be put onto Partagaz, because Supervisor Hurt is already dead. But instead of going to prison or dealing with any other consequences from the Empire, Partagaz takes a more deadly approach. And he pulls out his blaster and, well, you know. I knew a lot of characters were going to die in these last 3 episodes. We already had Lonnie. We already had Luthen. A lot of characters that were on the list, like Vel, like Clea, Wilmon, they actually survive, which makes sense to an extent because they're not involved with the events of Rogue One, but they don't necessarily have to be involved with the events of Rogue One. But back on Yavin, as Vel is leaving, she tells Cassian that he should reconnect with Bix. It's been a year since she left in episode 9. And I think in this scene, Vel might know about the child. As Cassian says she's safe, isn't she? And Vel says that's what I hear. I got a feeling that Vel might have known about the child back in episode 9 when she came to talk to Bix in the first place. Tell me what you think in the comments. Did Vel know about the baby? But either way, Cassian says she wouldn't be safe with me. It's too late for that. But once things settle down, then maybe. And as Vel is about to leave, she turns around and says, don't wait too long. I mean, come on, we get it. It's hard enough. Cassian's gonna die. He's never gonna get to see Bix or his child. We get it. Stop rubbing it in. Stop reopening the wound. Because Cassian will never see Bix again. Will never meet his own child, as he will die on the beaches of Scarif. A while later, Melshi and K2 come home. They were released by General Draven, who is outside waiting for Cassian, as he tells him that Tivik is on Kafrene until tomorrow, and he'll only meet with you. He explains to Cassian Jedha, Kyber crystals, the ISB mole, Luthen dying to get all this into motion, and now Tivik keeps on calling us? If this is a trap, it's a brilliant way to spring it. And Cassian says, how am I supposed to get to Kafrene? He's been grounded. And we then see Mon Mothma and Draven go to Bail Organa, asking him to hear them out. Now, this next scene is really strange. It's Cassian having a dream about his sister. We haven't seen his sister since episode 3, since the last flashback in season 1. So why bring up the sister now? What's the significance? Some fans even think that Clea could be his sister. That theory seems less and less likely now. But what's the significance of showing this dream now? Tell me what you think in the comments. As he's woken up by K2SO, who says waking up humans is always confusing. And he says the man you don't like is here, Bail Organa. Bail tells him that Draven has his orders. He must go to the contact and learn what he can very quickly. To which Cassian says, "Can I ask what changed your mind?" And Bail tells him, if I die fighting the Empire, I want to go down swinging. And this is a little ironic. Bail Organa, although he is a big part of this rebellion, he dies on Alderaan, not really swinging. Unless he was on a swing, I mean, what do I know? Do they have swings on Alderaan? But he gets blown up by the Death Star. So at least he now has a part in putting in motion the destruction of that Death Star. And he ends the conversation with, "May the Force be with you." And as Cassian is walking to get to his ship, we get a montage of where all our characters have ended up, many of whom we don't see in Rogue One. It starts with Melshi, where we get another appearance of a Rogue One character. This guy's name is Pow, but he really has one of the longest Star Wars names of all time. I'm just not going to say it. You know, I totally could say it, but I'm not going to. We then see Wilmon and Drina eating together, and Mon Mothma and Vel eating lunch together, as Cassian is walking by all these different people going on one of the most important missions ever, and they just don't know it yet. We then get an answer to a question I didn't think was going to be answered in this finale, and that was what happened to Perrin, Mon Mothma's husband, as we see him in the back of a car, absolutely trashed, with some girl on his shoulder. So it seems like Perrin is living it up. We also get to see where Dedra ended up. And oh, did she get some karma. Dedra ends up in a prison. Now, it looks like the same prison as Narkina 5. I don't know if it's the exact same prison. I'm sure it's not. She's wearing the same outfit that Cassian did in the Narkina 5 arc, and she's sitting in the same looking bed. And that's where Dedra will remain forever. We cut back to Cassian on Yavin as he's still walking towards his ship as he sees the Force Healer from episode 7, the lady that pretty much told him his future as he's going to be the messenger, which he literally is on Scarif as he is the messenger of the Death Star plans to the rebellion. We then see Saw Gerrera on Jeddah, where he meets his demise in Rogue One, and we see Krennic staring off at the almost completed Death Star, the device that will cause his demise too. But as Cassian and K2 blast off to Kafrene, the episode, the season, the series ends on Mina Rao, as we see B2 playing around with his droid friends, and Bix out in the field holding a child. Yes, 99.9% sure that's Cassian Andor's child. As she looks off into the distance, in a parallel of Cassian and Jyn Erso on the beaches of Scarif looking off into the distance at their demise. Now, no, this is not a setup for a Bix show or a Cassian Jr. show. It's more so the happy ending that Cassian will never get. The fact that he had to give up everything, give up this family, Bix and a child and B2, and sacrifice all of that, just like Luthen did for the rebellion, to save the entire galaxy. However, I'm sure many fans will be wanting a Bix spin-off series. I really don't think it's happening. But that ends season 2 and the entire series of Andor. And I mean, talk about the perfect ending, showing us where all these different characters end up, and of course, setting up Rogue One perfectly. Now, when you go back and watch this movie, it's going to be completely different, having all this backstory for the character of Cassian, but even other characters involved. It's going to make it so much better. But I rate this final episode a 9.5 out of 10. I truly think that this was the perfect ending to this story. We do know the actual ending to Cassian's story already, so this was the right way to do it. But tell me what you think in the comment section below. What do you rank this episode out of 10? And what did you think of the series? And what did you think of the second season and the entire series of Andor? Is it truly one of the greatest Star Wars projects of all time? Tell me in the comment section below. And if you haven't watched it already, go check out the breakdown I did for episode 11 in this video right here.